Join ForumIAS Academy, trusted by hundreds of toppers, including IAS Rank 1 Shruti Sharma.
Hello friends, this is Vijay. Welcome to ForumIAS Hindu Daily. In our today's news discussion, we will be seeing about the topics in the slide. The first one, do production linked incentives for manufacturing work. So it came in the explanatory page. Then the second one, Chandrayaan III to be launched in mid of July. Then the third one, DRDO successfully test ballistic missile Agni Prime. So it is a canisterized based missile. Then the fourth one, Cyclones effect on Monsoon onset. In this article, they discussed about the recent cyclonic phenomenon in the Indian Ocean region and its impact on the southwest monsoon. Then the last article, US-UK forge Atlantic Declaration to boost their ties. So this is the last article. Now without any delay, let us dive into the discussion part. This is the first article, do production linked incentives for manufacturing work. Here the authors are Arun Kumar and Nagesh Kumar. Before getting into the article, let us have a brief recap about the production linked incentives. So PLI scheme, the central government announced the scheme is to boost the domestic manufacturing and cut down on import bills. So basically in the year of 2018, the government had witnessed that we have been importing enormous electronics from China. So to cut off those imports, the government came up with PLI scheme in the year of 2020. So then onwards, they have been providing various production linked incentives to the company. What is production linked incentives? In the term itself, it is the production link. Okay, to boost the production, the government is coming up with certain incentives. What are the incentives they are providing? The first one, subsidy. Okay, so the government will provide some resources in the form of subsidy like electricity subsidy, water subsidy. Okay, then duty cuts. So for exports and all, there will be a duty cuts. Then target based incentives. So this is the third provision. So for each and every industries, the governments will set certain targets. If the industry achieved those target means, then the government will provide the committed subsidy or incentive. Okay, so this is the mechanism they have been using in the PLI scheme. Now let us take Mercedes-Benz. Okay, so Benz is a German car maker and they have been producing certain amount of cars in India. So Indian government, they decided to boost the production in the Benz factory. In this time, they will be coming up with some schemes. So this is what the PLI is envisioned for. Under the PLI, they will ask the corporates and some other industries to go ahead for the production expansion. So here, the production expansion will happen and the produced commodities, it will be sold either in domestic market and in the international market. If it is sold in the domestic market means, then the government will be earning the resources in the form of GST and some other excise duties. So if the product is exporting to offshore destination means, then the government will be accruing the resources in the form of forex reserves and the duties which are imposing on the exports. So this is how the entire mechanism has been devised. And the third one, moreover, the scheme also aims to encourage local companies to set up or expand existing manufacturing units along with focusing on inviting foreign companies to set up shops in India. So here the government is targeting to expand the production. Therefore, they have been emphasizing both on the local entities and on the foreign entities. If foreign entities are coming under the scheme means, then they will come up with certain investments and tech transfers, right? So these phenomena will help the India to achieve the desired growth. Then the last one, the scheme is targeting labor intensive sectors in the hope to create new jobs for ballooning employable workforce of India. So basically, the government document, it states that they are targeting only the labor intensive sectors and they are looking up to expand the employment in India. Actually, it is subjected to certain criticisms. I will explain more while we discussing the article. Now let us discuss the objective. What is the first objective? Protect identified product areas. Under the PLI scheme, each and every product will be identified and the zonation will happen. Okay, in some landscape, some product will be produced in a large scale. So that area, it will be termed as certain zones. Okay, then the second one, introduce non-tariff measures that make imports more expensive. Like the government can demand the local content. If we are importing some solar panels from China, means we can demand the local content from the China in that product. So that's how we can make the imports more expensive. Then the third one, relevance of exports in the overall growth strategy with a renowned focus on the domestic market. We all well known, through the exports we can build our coffers, right? So this is the third objective. Then the fourth one, promote domestic manufacturing by offering production incentives and encouraging capital investments. This is already we have discussed. When foreign players are coming inside, they will come up with investments and tech transfers. Then the fourth one, attract core knowledge competency and cutting edge technology. So this is the part and parcel of each and every industrial schemes. So knowledge accrual and the expansion production. So these are all the two basic principles of each and every industrial schemes. Then the sixth one, create economies of scale and ensure efficiencies. By imbibing cutting edge technologies, we are going to make the industrial landscape more efficient, right? Then the last one, promote job generation and employment. Now let us discuss these points briefly in an article. So do production linked incentives for manufacturing work. Actually guys, here 4 points are very important, right? 4 focal areas are there. So now let us discuss each and every one. Basically, before few days, the ex-RBI governor Raghuram Rajan, he questioned the government regarding the PLI scheme. So how the scheme have been performing, because the government have been pouring lakhs of crores into the scheme, and he have been asking how the program have been functioning. And he stated that the mobile phone exports in the year of 2018, the mobile phone exports were 300 million. Now in 2023, the exports were 11 billion US dollars. So it might seem that we had expanded our production and the exports have been more, right? But he have been explaining that, Raghuram Rajan have been explaining that, no, it is not the real scenario. The actual scenario is the Indian manufacturers, they have been importing the components from the China and they have been assembling those components in India and they are doing a re-export. So this is how the industries have been performing in India, like that he had stated. Actually, he is stating that we are not making in India, but assembly in India. So this is the principle we are following, and he put some supporting statements in that document. So based on that only, the article came up in the explanatory page. The first question, what do you think of the policy of subsidizing certain domestic sectors and on the other hand, imposing tariff on imports to favor domestic manufacturers? Here they have been stating that the PLI scheme, it should focus on the MSME sector, because in India, we all well known, MSME sector, they have been providing the employment to almost 400 million people. Okay, so MSME sector alone have been providing the employment to 400 million people. So we all well known the gravity of employment which have been provided by the MSME. So this is what it have been discussed here. But instead of focusing on the MSME, the government have been focusing on the corporates. Then the second one, Nagesh Kumar have been discussing that instead we need to focus on the core sectors, because all the other sectors, they all dependent upon the core sectors. Therefore, the PLI scheme, it should focus on the core sectors. So this is what he have been discussing here. Then the next question, how exactly do you go about subsidizing certain sectors, given that the process of doing out subsidies involves discretion and is prone to cronyism? I hope you all well known about the cronyism, right? So here they have been discussing that targeting is very important for each and every industry, because government have been pouring the hard-earned tax resources, right? The tax resources, it have been levying upon the people and the resources are accrued and the government have been investing those resources for their production expansion. So the government, they need to spend the resources more cautiously, like that they have been saying. That's what targeting is very important, because which industry we need to incentivize, which industry we are not supposed to incentivize, that we should know. But here with respect to India, the targeting have been happening based on the strategical industries. In each and every era or in each and every decade, there will be certain industries that will be strategically very important. Now we all well known the entire global community have been cruising towards the net zero emission. Therefore, the green energy or the green industry is the strategic industry. And we all well known the US government, they allocated some 720 billion of resources either as a subsidy or as an incentive to the semiconductors or green hydrogen producers or the electric vehicle producers. So through this, we all come to know the importance of the green energy in today's era. Therefore, they are stating that we need to be watchful about other governments and their related developments. Then the third question, why exactly do you need a scheme that spends lakh of crores of rupees of taxpayers' money to subsidize business? Why can't business simply be left to cater to market demand without the help of subsidies? So here they have been stating that at a macro level, PLI is a freebie to the corporate sector because the 14 segments, 14 domains which are under the PLI scheme all belongs to the corporates. So it have been focusing on the supply side alone, but we need to ramp up the demand in the Indian economy. Then only what the products produced by the corporates will be sold off in the market. So this is what they have been discussing here, and they are also discussing that in the post-pandemic, the growth rate it was very low, but right now it is getting momentum after 22 and in 2023 the growth rate have been getting momentum, right? But the corporate sector, they need to spend more on the R&D, which is not so in India compared to the rest of the countries. The allocation to the R&D is very low. Only 2 to 3% of the profit have been allocating to the R&D. If we are spending above 5 to 6% as like China and US means, we will be getting the cutting edge technologies from our laboratories. We can also restore the efficiency in the manufacturing area. So this is what it have been discussed here. Then the last question, do you think that the basic problem with the manufacturing sector is bureaucratic control? If so, don't we need to address that problem rather than subsidizing companies? Here they have been discussing about a very actual issue which have been prevailing in India. In the last week itself, we discussed about it. It is a structural issue. Structurally, Indian manufacturing sector is having certain issues. Through the PLI scheme, we can ramp up the supply, but we should be having demand, right? Then only the consumers will be purchasing the products in the market. For enhancing the demand, we need to expand the employment. For that, we need to focus more on the labor-intensive industries. So this is what they have been discussing here. Apart from that, we need to enhance the quality of education, infrastructure, and R&D investments in India. So these are all the things we need to take parallelly to the PLI scheme. So the PLI scheme won't alone will bring profits or resources to the government exchequer. Parallelly, we need to focus on the infrastructure corrections, then the quality of educations, then the focus on R&D should be there. So these are all the stuffs should be gelled together. Then only it will take India to attain 22 to 25% of the manufacturing contribution in the GDP, and it will help us to achieve the $5 trillion economy in the future, right? And these are all the 14 focal areas under the PLI scheme. The first one is mobile manufacturing and specified electronic components. Then the second one, critical key starting materials, drug intermediaries, and API, active pharma ingredients. So from China, we are importing huge amount of API. That's what it have been brought under the PLI scheme. Then the third one, manufacturing of medical devices, automobiles and auto components, then pharmaceutical drugs, specialty steel. Then the seventh one, telecom and networking products, electronic and technology products. Then the white goods, AC and LEDs. Then the 10th one, food products. 11thly, textile products. Then the 12th one, high efficiency solar PV panels. With respect to solar PV, we all well known, US have been came up with the IRA, Inflation Reduction Act, under which they are going to subsidize the domestic production with respect to the solar. 13th one, advanced chemistry cell battery. Then 14th, drones and drone components. We all well known the role playing by the drone and drone components in the Ukraine-Russian war, right? So that's what it is also considered as a strategic industry. Now, what are the challenges to the PLI scheme? Out of the 14 eligible sectors, only 2 to 3 were likely to meet their first year targets under the PLI scheme. Under the PLI scheme, I already told you, they used to keep their targets for their production. So, among that, only 2 to 3 of the 14 designated industries were likely to meet the first year targets. Then the second one, there is no common set of parameters to understand the value added by the companies that have received or likely to receive incentives under the scheme. So here, there is no parameter to measure the value addition. So that's what, as I already told you, in the document provided by the Raghuram Rajan, he clearly stated that most of the industries, they have been importing the components and they are doing a reassembly in India. Then the third one, according to the research, the industries think that the further incentives are required to make India more appealing than China and Vietnam. In the international market, our competitors are China, Vietnam, and some other Southeast Asian countries. So, industries who are operating in India, they are looking up for further incentives apart from PLI. So, this is what it has been discussed here. But within the PLI itself, the government had allocated lakhs and lakhs of crores for these industries, right? Then fourthly, the companies are in need of more incentives to run the scheme properly and boost exports. So actually they are looking up for greenifying the PLI scheme. The government, it came up with the PLI as a temporary measure, but the industries who are looking up to greenifying the PLI scheme. Then fifthly, country lack in creating a centralized database to monitor the progress. The Niti Aayog plans to rope in an external agency, state-owned IFCI Limited or SIDBI, to design and prepare the database. Right now, we don't have any centralized database to monitor the progress what we are achieving under the PLI scheme. So this is what it has been discussed here. But Niti Aayog is having planned to collaborate with IFCI or SIDBI to prepare the database. Then lastly, government is not focusing on labor-intensive micro, small, medium enterprises. In the objective, they had given that the government will be focusing on the labor-intensive industries. But in the 14 designated segments, you can see we don't have any MSE sectors, right? So rather expanding the supply, we should focus on demand, right? So once we expanded the demand means automatically the industries will be ramp up their production. So this is what the biggest challenge the PLI scheme have been facing. Now with this note, let us move on to the next article, guys. Chandrayaan III to be launched in mid-July. So ISRO chairman S. Somnath, he stated that the Chandrayaan III will be launching in the mid of July. And the Chandrayaan III, you all well known, in the past decades, we were launched Chandrayaan 1 and Chandrayaan 2. Chandrayaan 2 was a OLR, orbiter, rover and lander. So we all well known, the lander was crashed, right? The Vikram lander was crashed, and till today, the Pragyan orbiter have been functioning. So the lander rover mechanism was failed in the Chandrayaan 2. That's what the ISRO, they came up with Chandrayaan 3. Chandrayaan 3 is India's third moon mission and is later to be launched later this year by Launch Vehicle Mark 3 from the Satish Dhawan Space Center at Sriharikota. So here for the launch, they will be using a GSLV vehicle. So that's what Launch Vehicle Mark 3. Then secondly, satellite moved to Satish Dhawan Space Center and initial checks have been going on. They actually constructed the satellite in Bangalore. Right now, the satellite was moved to the Satish Dhawan Space Center and they kickstarted the initial checks. Then this is a brief characteristics of the Chandrayaan 3. Chandrayaan 3 is an interplanetary mission which has 3 major modules. One is propulsion, right? Then the second one is lander and rover module. So the lander and rover module of the Chandrayaan 2 was failed. So that's what the Chandrayaan 3 came up with the lander rover module for the Chandrayaan mission. Then secondly, the mission's complexity calls for establishing RF communication links between the modules. So the system will be very complicated. So that's what it have been taking several checks before the launch, because in the last incident, because of the lack of RF communication only, the Vikram lander was crashed. That's what this time the ISRO have been planning everything very cautiously. Thirdly, the propulsion module will carry the lander and rover configuration till 100 km lunar orbit. So above the surface of the moon at the altitude of 100 km, the lander rover module will be separated from the propulsion module. Then the lander will have the capability to soft land at a specified lunar site and deploy the rover, which will carry out in situ chemical analysis of the lunar surface during the course of its mobility. So once the lander will hit the surface, the rover will come out, right? The rover will come out and it will be doing the chemical analysis, like the composition of mineral components in the soil of earth, then the presence of water, then is there any opportunity for future space mining. So these things and all will be discovered with the help of the rover. Now with this note, let us move on to the next article. This is the third article, guys. DRDO successfully test ballistic missile Agni Prime. So yesterday it was a pre-induction night launch. So for each and every missile, before the induction, they will be doing nighttime launches. So this is what they had done yesterday. So it was conducted by DRDO and it was a canisterized based launch. So what is meant by the canisterized based launch? So this is the image. You can see the canisters. So this is the canister. In S400 also you can witness the same canisters. If we are having a canister based launch, means we can launch the missile from anywhere, anytime basis. Okay, so there won't be any requirement for launch and all. So if we are having a vehicle mounted with canister, means we can launch the vehicle from any terrains. And what is Agni Prime? It is a two-stage canisterized missile and it is the latest and sixth variant of Agni series missiles under IGMDP program. So already we are having Agni 1, Agni 2, Agni 3, Agni 4, then Agni 5. Now we are having Agni Prime. So Agni Prime, its range is 1000 to 2000 km and they are having a capacity to carry the warhead of up to 1.5 ton. So it is a nuclear capable and it can perform high maneuvers while homing in on targets. Let me explain you very briefly. In missile systems, there are two variants are there. One is cruise and another one is ballistic. So cruise missiles, they will be flying at an altitude between 10 meter to 15 kilometer. So that's what cruise missiles are termed as a terrain hugging missiles or treetop missiles, right? So this is with respect to cruise missiles. Now with respect to ballistic missile, it will be launched from one place, okay? Then it will be following a parabolic trajectory. And in the mid of the course, they will fly above the stratosphere, which means they can reach up to the magnetosphere. And here with respect to the mid-flight range, there won't be any control. After the launch of the missile, there won't be any control with the command center. The missile, it will be adjusting slightly based on its target on its own. And in the re-entry, with respect to the Agni Prime, it can blast in the mid-air and it will neutralize the target by using multiple warheads. Then these missiles will be inducted in the armed force after couple of user associated launches. Right now they are done with the pre-induction night launch. Apart from that, there are other two testings are there. So after those, the missile will be inducted into the armed force. And it has a dual redundant navigation and guidance system. It is a sophisticated guidance system. We don't have this type of guidance system in any other Agni variants. Then the Agni P missile would further strengthen India's credible deterrence capability. I already told you it is a nuclear capable missile. So for massive second strike, that is the doctrine of India. So for aiding this second massive strike, we are having Agni 1 to Agni 5. Now Agni 5 is also, Agni P is also joining in the basket. Now let us see the next slide. What is IGMDP? Integrated Missile Development Program. It was conceived by Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam to enable India to attain self-sufficiency in the field of missile technology. It was approved by the Government of India in 1983 and completed in March 2012 with the development of the third generation anti-tank missile, which is NAG. Okay, so this was developed in 2012, and under the IGMDP we are having 5 missiles. The first is Prithvi, short range surface to surface ballistic missile, and then Agni. This is also a ballistic missile, but multiple ranges are there. For Agni 1, the range is 700. For Agni 2, the range is 1500. And for Agni 3, the range is 3000. Then for Agni 4, 4000 km. Then for Agni 5, 4500 km. So these are all the ranges for Agni variants. Then Trishul is the short range, low level surface to air missile. It is a SAM variant, okay, to attack the incoming missiles and aircraft. The upgraded variant of Trishul is the Akash, so which is medium range surface to air missile. So these are all the 5 missiles we developed under the IGMDP program, and the acronym partner you can refer. So P for Prithvi, A for Agni, T for Trishul, N for Nag, and A for Akash. Now with this note, let us move on to the next article. This is the 4th article, guys. Cyclones effect on monsoon onset. So this is the title. Here they have been discussing some 3 parts. The first one, why does a cyclone's position matter? And secondly, they have been discussing their role played by the Mawar, Biparjoy and Kochol. These 3 are the cyclones which formed in the Indian Ocean region. Then thirdly, they have been making a conclusion out of it. So before getting into the article, let us have a brief recap over the tropical cyclone and the southwest monsoon. What is meant by the tropical cyclones? They are violent storms that originate over the oceans in the tropical areas and move over to the coastal areas, bringing about the large-scale destruction caused by violent winds, very heavy rainfall and storm surges. In Indian Ocean, we are calling it as a cyclone, and in the South China Sea and East China Sea, they are calling it as a typhoon, and in the US, these cyclones will be termed as a hurricanes, and they won't be formed above the 30 degree north and 30 degree south. So their formation will be between 30 degree north to 30 degree south, and they won't form in the equator also. Then tropical cyclones are one of the most devastating natural calamities in the world. Then tropical cyclones originate and intensify over the warm tropical cyclones. This is a precursor for the formation of cyclone. And we all well know there are certain conditions are there, right, for the formation of cyclones. So it had been given here. The first one, large sea surface temperature higher than 27 degrees Celsius. If the temperature is above 27 degrees Celsius only, there will be a formation of depression. There will be a low pressure depression. Then the presence of Coriolis force. This Coriolis force will activate the planetary winds, and the trade wind, which is one of the planetary wind, it will be building the cyclone. Thirdly, small variations in the vertical wind speed. So the vertical wind speed also should be varying. So this is the surface of the ocean, and the vertical wind speeds will be different. A pre-existing weak low pressure area or a low level cyclonic circulation, if there is any low level cyclonic circulation, means it will be built up by the trade winds, and it will be sucking the moisture from the ocean. Already the moisture in the ocean region will be very high because of the prevailing high temperature. So the Coriolis force and the prevailing trade wind and the warm temperature over the ocean all have been aiding in the formation of cyclone. Lastly, upper divergence above the sea level system. So after the formation, this is a high portion. Here there will be a low pressure. In the outskirts of the high portion, there will be a high pressure. Okay. So here there should be a upper air divergence. So this is the another one precursor for the formation of tropical cyclones. And here let me give you a brief recap of the southwest monsoon. And here the equator have been locating, and usually the air mass from Australia and southern Pacific will move towards the eastern African region, and they will be settling here. Here the high pressure will be developed in the month of April to May. And in this portion, in the central India, the low pressure will be developed due to the prevailing high insolation. So the air mass, they will be traveling towards this high pressure region, and the onset of monsoon will happen. This monsoon, it will be having 2 branches. One is the Arabian Sea branch and another one is the Bay of Bengal branch. This Arabian Sea branch, it will be giving intense rainfall to the west coast region of India, and the Bay of Bengal region, it will be giving rainfall to the Sri Lanka and the northeastern parts of India. So this is how the southwest monsoon have been functioning. Now these days there are various cyclones are forming in the Indian Ocean region, especially the northern Indian Ocean region. So the location of the cyclones is very important because they can disturb the monsoon trough and they can influence the intensity of the southwest monsoon. Right now we are having Biparjoy. Biparjoy is in the Arabian Sea, but Biparjoy doesn't interact with the monsoon trough of the southwest monsoon. Therefore, we don't have any issue with the intensity what we are going to accrue from the southwest monsoon. But in the last month, the Mewar, okay, it crossed near the Taiwan. It actually pulled the air mass from the Indian Ocean region. So the southwesterly air masses, they were moved from the Indian Ocean. The southwesterly air mass, it fly over the Bay of Bengal and the Arabian Sea. If the southwesterly air mass, if it is flying over the Arabian Sea means it is fair, it will intensify the southwest monsoon. But if the air mass, if it is flying over the Bay of Bengal in the southeasterly direction means it will disturb the intensity of the southwest monsoon. So this is the one of the main factor. Then they had given about the Guchol. So Guchol, right now it is very active in the eastern Philippines, but the intensity of the Guchol with respect to the sucking of air mass is unpredictable. Therefore, we need to wait and watch. In the article, they had stated that the location of the cyclones is very important. That's it. This is what they have been describing. And the Biparjoy, it don't have any interaction with the monsoon trough, but the Mawar, it were actually pulling the air mass from the southwestern Indian Ocean region. So these are all the basic facts they had discussed. Then in the conclusion part, they had stated that in the future, apart from calculating the El Nino, La Nina, Indian Ocean dipole, then the prevailing global warming, we also need to calculate the onset of cyclones in the pre-monsoon time, because this will also interact with the monsoon and the related impact will be there in the Indian landscape. So this is what they have been discussing in the conclusion part, and the position of the cyclones have been affecting the monsoon dynamics. So this is the premise of the passage. Now with this note, let us move on to the next article. This is the last article of today's discussion, guys, and this is one of the smallest article. US-UK forge Atlantic Declaration to boost ties. Yesterday, the UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and the US President Joe Biden, they signed the Atlantic Declaration, and there are special focus areas are there. The focus areas are the first one to counter the Russia. According to them, Russia is following an expansionist policy and China have been indirectly helping Russia. So they are in a situation to counter both Russia and China, and we all well know the global arena, it have been witnessing the economic instability. So they are also committed to take measures to fight the economic instability prevailing in the world. Then secondly, to collaborate on disruptive technologies like green energy, then other renewables, then technology which are related to the carbon sequestration. So these are all the area they are going to operate further. And as I already told you, US, they came up with the IRA Act, Inflation Reduction Act, and based on that, they will provide subsidy to the industries who are operating in the production of solar panels in the US landscape. Thirdly, they also affirmed that the heat possessed by AI to the industrial sector. We all well know, with the help of AI, artificial intelligence, the industries are going to gain a lot, but it is also possessing several challenges like privacy issues are there. Then we hadn't estimate the course of action what AI is going to provide for the industrial landscape, right? Because we don't know how the laborers are going to get skilled to operate in the AI connected environment. So there are several issues are there. So under the Atlantic Declaration, both these countries, they committed to look forward to tackle the challenges possessed by AI to the industrial sector. Now with this note, let us move on to the question part. This is the first question. It is a pure factual question. So I don't need to explain anything here. Which one of the following is the best example of repeated falls in sea level giving rise to present day extensive marshland? So they have been asking for the repeated falls in sea level, right? So among them, the Ran of Kutch is the only zone which have been witnessing the repeated falls in sea level. So it is the right one. And Bhitarkanika mangroves, it is in Odisha. And Marakanam salt pans, it is located near the town of Chennai. So it is in Tamil Nadu. The Naupada swamp, it is located in the Srikakulam district of Andhra Pradesh. So in the future, from these regions, the question may come up. So kindly Google it. This is the second question. By which one of the following acts was the Governor General of Bengal designated as the Governor General of India? So this is also the factual question. These all questions it came up in the prelims 2023. And here it is the direct hit. The Charter Act of 1833 provided the provision to make the Governor of Bengal as the Governor General of Bengal as the Governor General of India. This is the third question. With reference to the Earth's atmosphere, which one of the following statements is correct? So the total amount of insolation received at the equator is roughly about 10 times of that received at the poles. So we all well known in the equator, the insolation will be very high. Therefore, the cloud formation also will be very high. Therefore, it won't be having the insolation 10 times of that received at the poles, right? So the first option is wrong. Then secondly, infrared rays constitute 2/3 of the insolation. So 2/3 of the insolation is from ultraviolet, not from infrared rays. So therefore, the second statement is also wrong. Thirdly, the infrared waves are largely absorbed by the water vapor that is concentrated in the lower atmosphere. In the lower atmosphere, we are having various greenhouse gas, right? Carbon, methane, SF6, then water vapor. Among them, water vapor and CO2, they have been extensively absorbing the infrared rays. So this is the true statement. Then last one, infrared waves are a part of visible spectrum of the electromagnetic waves of the solar radiation. They are not a part of visible spectrum. They are a part of electromagnetic waves, but they are not in the visible range. So the fourth statement is also wrong. Now with this note, we are arriving at the end of the discussion. I hope you would like this discussion. Kindly give us a feedback and subscribe us and press the like button. Let me catch you in another discussion tomorrow. Bye.